Hello, this is Danielle Ireland with Healing Hearts of Indie, and today I was really inspired to talk about a reference and a quote from a talk that I just participated in with Glennon Doyle. So if you don't know Glennon Doyle, she's the author of Carry On Warrior and the best-selling novel Love Warrior. Highly encourage those reads. She's also the founder of the blog Momastery, so like monastery but spelled with mom. And she's just an incredible speaker. She's not doesn't have a mental health background, but she is very open about her mental health journey. I think she offers a lot of humor and insight into the things that she shares. And one of the quotes that I took from her talk that I absolutely loved is that I would die for you, but I won't meet you for coffee. She was talking about the fact that she is an introvert, and part of one of the questions that was leading to this particular discussion was, how do you know when to say yes and how do you know when to say no? And I mean, of course, she turned it into a really funny joke, and that was certainly how it was intended. I love you, I would die for you, but I won't meet you for coffee. And she was talking about how, large group social interactions, not necessarily presentations, but large group social interactions like networking events or small parties are really draining for her. And so how I thought that would be something really helpful for us to explore in this platform is that we've all, I think, roughly heard of the idea of introverts and extroverts, right? Extroverts are more open, they crave more attention, they're more social. Introverts are more shy, reclusive, and it's not quite that clear or cut and dry. There's a term that is newly emerging in the zeitgeist called ambivert, somebody who maybe enjoys social interaction but recharges home alone. That's how I would consider myself. Some people that have no qualms, no issue, no lack of confidence whatsoever presenting or public speaking or even performing, but certain social interactions, maybe where they don't know people, or the idea of meeting and having to build new relationships, can be really tiring or draining. So there's a wide continuum of whether someone is clearly an extrovert or clearly an introvert. And that's not exactly what I wanted to talk about today, but this topic did get me thinking about boundaries. And when do we say yes to something and when do we say no? And it seemed very apparent to me that Glennon was clear on, I will say yes to fighting tooth and nail for you and loving you fiercely, but I will say no when you ask me for small talk or chit chat or just meeting for coffee to catch up. And when I was kind of reflecting and thinking, well, how can I take this, deeper for myself? It got me thinking more about, how do I know when I want to say yes to something and when I want to say no? Because there are definitely times, even some that I've experienced recently, where I will say yes to a commitment and then the day of rolls around and I'm like, why? Why did I do that? Or I will maybe pass on an opportunity and that feels like 100% the right move. So how do I know when it's a wholehearted yes and how do I know when it's a wholehearted no? I don't think I have a one-size-fits-all answer for this question, but the conclusion I came to, I hope, will be helpful for you, and I would love to know your thoughts and feedback. And it's actually pretty simple. How does it make me feel? So when I imagine myself saying yes to this, and actually I'm thinking through what is required of me, so that will include drive time. Will I need to change clothes? Will I have an opportunity to have a break from maybe one meeting that I'm having or from work into this next thing? What's the transition time? Will I have time to recharge? Will I have time to grab a snack? Will I be rushing around? What will the traffic be like? I actually try to, not in a way that is meaning that I want to control all the details, but I'm trying to imagine if and put myself in that scenario and almost watch it play out like a movie. And like when we watch movies or watch TV shows, though I know that I'm imagining this, I know it's not really happening, my body has physical responses similar to if I were watching a television show, like maybe a drama or a suspense or a comedy, right? My body feels lighter when it feels like a solid yes, and my body begins to maybe tense and kind of curl in. Maybe I even start to perspire a little bit. I'm a nervous sweater. When it's a decision that maybe I don't fully want to say yes to. And so that clarity has been immensely helpful for me and has helped reduce so much stress. I'm saying yes more when I mean it, no more when I mean it. And then the next challenge comes, and this is sort of the second point that I would love to leave with you today, is how do you say no in a kind way. So often when we talk about boundaries or discuss boundaries, we think of boundaries as a firm no, a line in the sand, you cannot cross this line, you cannot treat me this way. And boundaries don't have to be so firm or they don't have to be so rigid. There are ways of honoring boundaries, honoring yourself in a kind and gentle way. And I think that that's actually a better way that I prefer to think of when I think of boundaries, is boundaries aren't always a no. Sometimes boundaries are a yes. That yes could be to myself, that yes could be to someone else. But really, in honoring my boundaries, what I'm really doing is honoring my truth. And thinking of it that way makes it feel a little less combative. But the way that I like to try to formulate a kind and compassionate no is, let's say a friend or a colleague or maybe an acquaintance has invited me to meet them somewhere, and I genuinely like them. I have no issue with them whatsoever, and I like coffee. Like, let's say the invitation's to coffee. It's like, well, I like coffee, I like them. Maybe I technically have the time. I mean, I've got enough blank space in my calendar, or I can move a couple things and make it work. So it isn't that I don't have the time. It isn't that I don't like them. And it isn't that I don't like what they're asking me to do. But sometimes that happens and we still want to say no. So what I've tried and practicing, and it seems pretty effective, is first thing is I acknowledge that truth, right? This isn't about lying. This isn't crafting up a false story. Because it also doesn't feel good making up an excuse like, oh, I'd love to, but I can't because of this or this. Like, we don't need to make up those excuses, and also, like, who cares? But so what I try to do first is say, thank you so much for asking, because I appreciate that. That sounds great. Like, that sounds like it would be a blast, right? Think of how you might want to phrase that. But I honor the person that asked me, and I honor the invitation. Like, thank you for asking me. That sounds so great. I absolutely would love to do that. That just won't, but then this is where the no comes in. So I'm honoring, thank you, but no. So I appreciate you for asking me, thanks so much. And I might even say, depending on who the person is or how much vested interest I actually have in maybe this relationship or this conversation they want to have, I might see if it can switch to like a 15-minute phone call. Or if there's a quick question, I might be able to answer an email, because I just find that what I'm really wanting to protect is my time, and not necessarily, I might be wanting to read a book at home instead, or I might just want to be twiddling my thumbs and doing nothing. But that's my prerogative, and that's okay, because there are plenty of times when I want to say yes. This particular case, I don't. So in some version that feels right to you, thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. I won't be able to do it this time, or thank you, but no. And then you can always follow up with, but I'd love to reschedule, or I'd love to look for another time. Here are some dates that work for me. But the last step is really optional if you really want to do that, because also no can be a complete sentence. But I have found that saying no in that way for me is less stressful and helps me honor my truth and honor my boundaries. So I hope that this Glennon Doyle inspired video was helpful for you, and that might be a good opportunity for you to look inside and think, gosh, are there people who I love to pieces, I love to death, and would, do anything for at 4 a.m? I just sometimes don't want to meet them for small talk or chit chat, and that's okay. And so I hopefully working through ways that you might be able to say no with kindness and compassion was helpful as well. If you have any further questions about how to say no or boundary setting, or would like to learn more about Glennon Doyle or connect with me, you can always email me at Danielle@healingheartsofindy.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you.